Let's bring in CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen, who is following the very latest from Washington. Jake, a lot of people wondered if President Donald Trump wouldn't go after his adversaries. Does this move sort of underscore that that's what's at foot here?
About Jack Smith's investigations into President Trump, for both his special counsel investigations into President Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents, but also his alleged plot to interfere with the 2020 election results. The House and Senate Judiciary Committees, to explain, quote, according to his attorney, clarify the various misconceptions about his investigations. This really has not satisfied Senate and House Republicans. They want something to be done behind doors.
Okay, so this just dropped, and it is absolutely wild. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan just subpoenaed former special counsel Jack Smith on December 3rd, 2025. Jack Smith, the guy who was investigating Trump, the prosecutor who brought cases against Trump, the person who led the investigations into Trump's classified documents and election interference. House Republicans just subpoenaed him, and this is causing absolute chaos and infighting and raising serious questions about what House Republicans are actually trying to do. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust headlines anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
What it appears right now is that on December 17th, Jack Smith will cooperate and come in. You see the statement from his attorney, Peter Koski, there. He's going to come in and meet with these investigators and lawmakers who potentially have a range of questions. Jack Smith said that those are just misconceptions, and generally that he was just looking at phone records around January 6th, 2021, and that there was no broad wiretapping. It was simply just seeing who had been called when by potentially people at the White House.
Here's what happened. Jim Jordan, who chairs the House Judiciary Committee, issued a subpoena demanding that Jack Smith appear for a private deposition on December 17th, 2025. A private deposition, closed door, behind closed doors, not public, not in front of cameras, behind closed doors where nobody can see what's happening. And Jordan is demanding documents by December 12th, documents about Smith's investigations, documents about the cases against Trump, documents about the classified documents case and the election interference case. Now, here's the interesting part. Jack Smith had already offered to testify. Jack Smith said, "I'll testify publicly. I'll appear in front of Congress publicly. I'll answer your questions in public. I'll let the American people see what I have to say." Smith offered public testimony. Smith offered transparency. Smith offered to come forward publicly. But House Republicans didn't want that. House Republicans insisted on a closed-door deposition. House Republicans want Smith behind closed doors. House Republicans want to question Smith in private. House Republicans don't want cameras. House Republicans don't want the public watching. House Republicans don't want transparency. They want closed-door sessions. And that's raising serious red flags. That's raising serious questions about what House Republicans are actually doing. That's raising questions about whether this is legitimate oversight or whether this is something else. That's raising questions about Republican motives. Because if you're doing legitimate oversight, why do you insist on closed doors? If you're doing legitimate oversight, why do you reject public testimony? If you're doing legitimate oversight, why do you hide what you're doing from the public? Legitimate oversight is transparent. Legitimate oversight happens in public. Legitimate oversight invites public scrutiny. But House Republicans are doing the opposite. House Republicans are insisting on closed doors. House Republicans are rejecting public testimony. House Republicans are hiding from public view, and that's suspicious. That's concerning. That's raising questions about whether this is really about oversight or whether this is about something else. And Trump is making it worse. Trump is going absolutely crazy about this. Trump is posting on Truth Social, calling Jack Smith a deranged criminal. Trump is demanding that Smith be in prison. Trump is calling for Smith to be investigated and in prison. Trump is saying Smith is a criminal. Trump is saying terrible things about Smith, and Trump is basically saying, "This subpoena is great. I love it. Jack Smith is evil. He should be punished." Trump is essentially demanding that Smith be prosecuted and in prison. Trump is using language like deranged and criminal to describe Smith. Trump is making it clear that Trump views this as revenge. Trump is making it clear that Trump sees this as payback for the investigations. And that's the problem. That's the issue. That's what's raising questions about Republican motives. Because if House Republicans were doing legitimate oversight, Trump would have nothing to do with it. If House Republicans were doing legitimate oversight, Trump would stay quiet. If House Republicans were doing legitimate oversight, they wouldn't need Trump's approval and encouragement. But Trump is cheering this on. Trump is encouraging it. Trump is demanding more. Trump is saying Smith should be in prison. And that's making it look like this subpoena is about revenge. That's making it look like this subpoena is about Trump getting payback for the investigations. That's making it look like House Republicans are doing Trump's bidding. And critics are pointing this out. Critics are saying this looks like revenge. Critics are saying this looks like politicization of the Justice Department. Critics are saying this looks like using congressional power to harass someone who investigated the president. Critics are saying this is exactly what an authoritarian government does, because that's what authoritarian governments do. They use government power to punish their enemies. They use congressional power to harass people who investigate them. They use subpoenas to intimidate prosecutors. They use closed-door proceedings to avoid public scrutiny. That's authoritarianism. That's abuse of power. That's using government as a tool for personal revenge. And that's what this looks like. That's what critics are saying. That's what the optics are. The optics are terrible for House Republicans. The optics are that House Republicans are using congressional power to harass Jack Smith for investigating Trump. The optics are that House Republicans are doing Trump's bidding. The optics are that House Republicans are using government power for political revenge. And this is happening at exactly the wrong time for Republicans. Republicans are already struggling politically. Trump's approval is tanking. The economy is terrible. The shutdown is ongoing. Inflation is hitting hard. Suburban voters are fleeing. And now this. Now House Republicans are subpoenaing the prosecutor who investigated Trump. Now House Republicans are doing something that looks like revenge and harassment. Now House Republicans are giving Democrats ammunition for the midterms, because Democrats are going to hammer this. Democrats are going to say House Republicans are using government power to punish people who investigated Trump. Democrats are going to say House Republicans are harassing a prosecutor. Democrats are going to say House Republicans are abusing their power. Democrats are going to say this is authoritarian. Democrats are going to use this in their messaging for 2026, and it's going to stick. It's going to resonate with voters. It's going to reinforce the narrative that House Republicans are not serious about governing. It's going to reinforce the narrative that House Republicans are just doing Trump's bidding. It's going to reinforce the narrative that Republicans are a danger to democracy and the rule of law, and House Republicans are fracturing over it. Some Republicans are defending the subpoena. Some Republicans are saying we need oversight of the Justice Department. Some Republicans are saying we need to know what Smith was doing, but other Republicans are concerned. Other Republicans are worried about the optics. Other Republicans are worried about how this looks. Other Republicans are worried that this is going to backfire politically, and the timing is terrible. This is happening when Democrats are looking for ammunition. This is happening when Democrats are trying to argue that Republicans are abusing power. This is happening when Democrats are trying to paint Republicans as a threat to democracy, and House Republicans are handing them exactly what they need. So that's what this subpoena is about. It's about House Republicans subpoenaing Jack Smith. It's about closed-door depositions instead of public testimony. It's about Trump cheering it on and demanding revenge. It's about Republicans using government power in ways that look like authoritarianism. It's about Democrats getting ammunition for 2026. And it's about the optics that this is revenge and harassment, not legitimate oversight. Okay, so let's dig into what's actually happening here and why this subpoena is raising so many concerns about House Republican motives and tactics, because this is really important to understand. First, let's talk about Jack Smith and what he was doing. Jack Smith was a special counsel appointed by Merrick Garland, the Attorney General under Biden. Smith was tasked with investigating two things. First, Smith was investigating whether Trump retained classified documents after leaving office. Second, Smith was investigating whether Trump interfered with the 2020 election and the peaceful transfer of power. And Smith brought cases on both of those issues. Smith indicted Trump on multiple charges related to classified documents. Smith brought charges related to election interference. Smith pursued these investigations and prosecutions. Smith had office resources and staff and was operating as a special counsel within the Justice Department. But then Trump won the 2024 election and came back into office, and Trump has the power to fire special counsels. Trump essentially forced Smith out by indicating he would fire him. Smith resigned in November 2024 rather than be fired. So Smith is no longer a special counsel. Smith is no longer in government. Smith is out. He's done. But the cases Smith brought are still out there. The classified documents case is still pending. The election case was dismissed by Trump's DOJ after Trump came back into office. But the classified documents case is still active. The cases exist, the charges exist, and the cases are controversial. Republicans say the cases were politically motivated. Republicans say Smith was weaponizing the Justice Department against Trump. Republicans say Smith was partisan. And now House Republicans are saying, we need to investigate Smith. We need to understand what Smith was doing. We need to know if Smith was biased or partisan. We need to know if Smith was following Biden's orders. We need to look into Smith's conduct and his decisions and his motivations. That's the stated reason for the subpoena. That's what Jim Jordan is saying. Jordan is saying, we need oversight of Smith's conduct. Jordan is saying, we need to understand what happened. Jordan is saying, the American people deserve to know what Smith was doing and why. Now that could be legitimate. That could be legitimate oversight. Congressional oversight of prosecutorial decisions could be a legitimate function. Congress could investigate whether a special counsel was biased or partisan. Congress could investigate whether a special counsel was biased or partisan. But here's where it gets problematic. Here's where the concerns come in. First, Jack Smith already offered to testify publicly. Smith said, I'll come before Congress. I'll answer your questions. I'll let the public see my testimony. I'll be transparent. I'll let the American people hear what I have to say. Smith offered public testimony. Smith offered to come forward in public, but House Republicans rejected that. House Republicans said no to public testimony. House Republicans said, we want a closed-door deposition. House Republicans said, we want to question you in private. House Republicans said, we want documents, but we want to do this behind closed doors. And that's problematic. That's concerning. Because legitimate oversight is transparent. Legitimate oversight happens in public. Legitimate oversight invites public scrutiny. If you're doing legitimate oversight, you want the public to see it. You want the public to hear the testimony. You want the public to understand what you're doing. But House Republicans are doing the opposite. House Republicans are insisting on closed doors. House Republicans are rejecting public testimony. House Republicans are demanding documents and closed-door depositions. House Republicans are hiding from public view, and that raises questions about why. Why insist on closed doors if you're doing legitimate oversight? Second, Trump is making statements about this that are concerning. Trump is calling Smith a deranged criminal. Trump is calling for Smith to be in prison. Trump is making inflammatory statements. Trump is essentially saying, I want Smith punished. Trump is essentially saying, I want revenge on Smith. Trump is essentially saying, this subpoena is good because it's harassing Smith, and that's problematic. That's concerning, because legitimate oversight shouldn't be driven by the person being investigated. Legitimate oversight of prosecutors shouldn't be at the behest of the defendant. Legitimate oversight shouldn't be about a political leader getting revenge on a prosecutor who investigated him. But that's what this looks like. This looks like Trump demanding revenge. This looks like Trump directing House Republicans to go after Smith. This looks like Trump using congressional power to harass a prosecutor. This looks like Trump getting payback for the investigations into him. And that's authoritarian. That's abusive. That's using government power for personal revenge. That's what happens in authoritarian countries. That's what dictators do. They use government power to punish their enemies. They use congressional authority to harass people who oppose them. They use subpoenas to intimidate prosecutors. Third, the timing is suspicious. Why now? Why subpoena Smith now? Smith is no longer in government. Smith is no longer a special counsel. Smith is out. The investigations are over. The cases are either dismissed or ongoing. Why subpoena Smith now? Why demand documents now? Why hold depositions now? The answer seems to be because Republicans now have power. Because Republicans control the House. Because Trump is back in office. Because Republicans can do it. Because Republicans can use government power against Smith now that they're in power. That's suspicious. That's concerning. That looks like using government power for political revenge rather than legitimate oversight. Fourth, the pattern is concerning. This isn't the first time Republicans have done this. Republicans subpoena people from the Biden DOJ. Republicans have been investigating the investigations into Trump. Republicans have been trying to flip the script and investigate the prosecutors instead of defending Trump. And that's a pattern. That's a concerning pattern. That's a pattern that suggests Republicans are interested in revenge and payback more than legitimate governance. That's a pattern that suggests Republicans are using government power to harass their enemies. That's a pattern that suggests Republicans are abusing power, and Democrats are noticing this pattern. Democrats are saying this is authoritarian behavior. Democrats are saying this is what happens in authoritarian countries. Democrats are saying Republicans are abusing their power. Democrats are saying this is dangerous for democracy, and they have a point. This does look like authoritarianism. This does look like abuse of power. This does look like using government to punish your enemies. This does look like the kind of thing that happens in countries where there's no rule of law and no democratic constraints on power. So the concerns are legitimate. The concerns about Republican motives are legitimate. The concerns about whether this is legitimate oversight or something else are legitimate. And the optics are terrible for House Republicans. The optics are that this is revenge. The optics are that this is harassment. The optics are that this is abuse of power. And those optics are going to hurt Republicans politically. All right, so let's break down what this Jack Smith subpoena actually means and what it tells us about House Republican tactics and what it means for American democracy in the 2026 midterms. First point, House Republicans subpoenaing Jack Smith looks like revenge. It looks like payback. It looks like House Republicans using government power to punish a prosecutor who who investigated Trump. It looks like authoritarianism, and the optics are terrible for House Republicans. Second point, Jack Smith offered public testimony and House Republicans rejected it. Smith offered transparency and House Republicans rejected it. Smith offered to let the public hear his testimony and House Republicans rejected it. Instead, House Republicans insisted on closed-door depositions. That's suspicious. That's concerning. That raises questions about Republican motives. Third point, Trump is cheering this on. Trump is calling Smith a deranged criminal. Trump is demanding that Smith be in prison. Trump is making inflammatory statements, and that's making it clear that this is about Trump getting revenge. That's making it clear that this is about Trump getting revenge. That's making it clear that this is about satisfying Trump. That's making it clear that this is about Trump's vendetta against Smith. Fourth point, legitimate oversight doesn't look like this. Legitimate oversight is transparent. Legitimate oversight happens in public. Legitimate oversight isn't driven by the person being investigated. Legitimate oversight doesn't involve the defendant making demands about what the investigators do, but this looks like all of that. This looks like illegitimate use of government power. Fifth point, this is authoritarianism. This is what happens in authoritarian countries. Authoritarian leaders use government power to punish their enemies. Authoritarian leaders use subpoenas to intimidate prosecutors. Authoritarian leaders use government authority to take revenge on people who investigated them. That's what's happening here. Sixth point, House Republicans are fracturing over this. Some Republicans are defending the subpoena. Some Republicans are concerned about the optics. Some Republicans are worried about how this looks. The party is not unified on this. There's disagreement within the GOP about whether this is appropriate. Seventh point, Democrats are going to hammer this politically. Democrats are going to say House Republicans are abusing power. Democrats are going to say House Republicans are using government to harass prosecutors. Democrats are going to say House Republicans are a threat to democracy. And those arguments are going to resonate with voters. Eighth point, this is happening at the worst possible time for Republicans. Republicans are already struggling politically. Trump's approval is low. The economy is bad. The shutdown is ongoing. And now House Republicans are doing something that looks like abuse of power. Now House Republicans are doing something that looks like authoritarianism. Now House Republicans are giving Democrats ammunition for 2026. Ninth point, the timing is suspicious. Why now? Why subpoena Smith now? Smith is out of government. The investigations are over. Why pursue this now? Because Republicans have power now. Because Trump is back in office. Because Republicans can do it. That's the answer. And that's concerning. 10th point, this is part of a pattern. Republicans have been subpoenaing DOJ officials. Republicans have been investigating the investigators. Republicans have been flipping the script. And that pattern suggests Republicans are interested in revenge more than governance. 11th point, this is going to look bad in the midterms. This is going to be used against House Republicans in 2026. This is going to be evidence that House Republicans abuse power. This is going to hurt House Republicans with swing voters and suburban voters. 12th point, this violates norms about prosecutorial independence. Prosecutors are supposed to be insulated from political pressure. Special counsels are supposed to be independent. Congress isn't supposed to subpoena prosecutors to harass them for their prosecutorial decisions. This violates those norms. 13th point, this is going to set a precedent. If House Republicans can subpoena Jack Smith and demand documents in closed-door depositions, what about when Democrats are back in power? What about when Democrats subpoena Republican prosecutors? What about when Democrats investigate Republican investigations? This sets a precedent for using government power against prosecutors. 14th point, this is about rule of law. The rule of law depends on prosecutorial independence. The rule of law depends on prosecutorial independence. The rule of law depends on prosecutorial independence. But House Republicans are violating that. House Republicans are pressuring a prosecutor. House Republicans are using government power to intimidate. 15th point, this is about democracy. Democracy depends on peaceful transfers of power. Democracy depends on accepting election results. Democracy depends on accepting that you lost and moving on. But Trump is using government power to punish the people who investigated him. Trump is using congressional authority to harass prosecutors. Trump is essentially saying, I won, so now I'm going to punish my enemies. That's not democracy. That's authoritarianism. 16th point, the American people are going to see this. The American people are going to see House Republicans subpoenaing Smith. The American people are going to see Trump demanding revenge. The American people are going to see House Republicans rejecting publicans' testimony. The American people are going to understand what's happening, and the American people are going to be concerned. 17th point, this is exactly what voters feared. This is exactly what Democrats warned about. This is exactly what critics said would happen if Trump came back into power. This is Trump using government to punish his enemies. This is Trump turning the Justice Department into a tool for political revenge. This is authoritarianism. 18th point. House Republicans could have rejected this. House Republicans could have said, we're not going to subpoena prosecutors for doing their jobs. House Republicans could have said, we're not going to participate in Trump's revenge campaign. House Republicans could have stood up for rule of law and prosecutorial independence. But they didn't. House Republicans chose to participate in the harassment of Smith. So that's what this Jack Smith subpoena means. It means House Republicans are subpoenaing a prosecutor for investigating the president. It means House Republicans are rejecting public testimony in favor of closed-door depositions. It means Trump is demanding revenge. It means this looks like authoritarianism. It means Democrats are getting ammunition for 2026. It means the rule of law is being undermined. It means American democracy is at risk. And this is going to have political consequences. House Republicans are going to pay a price for this in 2026. Voters are going to see this and understand what's happening. Voters are going to understand that House Republicans are not serious about rule of law. Voters are going to understand that House Republicans are willing to abuse power to satisfy Trump. Voters are going to understand that House Republicans are a threat to democracy. And that's going to affect the 2026 midterms. That's going to drive voters away from Republicans. That's going to help Democrats. That's going to contribute to House Republicans losing control of the House because voters care about democracy and rule of law and prosecutorial independence. And this subpoena shows that House Republicans don't. Stay tuned because this is going to develop. This deposition is scheduled for December 17th. Documents are due December 12th. This is going to be a big story. This is going to be a big story. This is going to be contentious. This is going to show exactly how far House Republicans are willing to go to satisfy Trump, and the American people are watching.